Welcome to your Bitcoin deep dive. You clearly want to get a handle on this whole Bitcoin thing. I mean, you sent over a ton of research material. I think we should cover the basics, but also explore the deeper questions, like what makes it tick and where it might be headed. Consider this your crash course in Bitcoin, from newbie to savvy investor.
What I find fascinating is that Bitcoin, it isn't just some tech fad. It's making us rethink what money even means. So today we'll trace how money has evolved from ancient forms to this new digital asset and why Bitcoin might be the next step in that evolution.
Okay, sounds good. So let's start with that $1 million question, or should I say the million Bitcoin question. What exactly is Bitcoin?
One of your sources kept referring to it as like digital gold. Isn't that a bit of an oversimplification?
Yeah, simply calling Bitcoin digital gold, I mean, it doesn't capture all the nuances. But the comparison has merit when you consider certain attributes. Both are scarce and hard to produce, which are key characteristics of hard money, as economists call it. This basically means it resists inflation and holds its value over time. So unlike the dollars in my bank account, which seem to be worth less and less every year thanks to inflation, Bitcoin is designed to hold its value.
You got it. See, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. This fixed supply is hard-coded into the Bitcoin protocol. Central banks, on the other hand, can print as much fiat currency as they like. It's essentially what's happening with the US dollar, leading to that decrease in purchasing power you mentioned. Remember that Big Mac index from one of the articles? A Big Mac cost 65 cents in the 1970s, and now it's over $4.
Ouch. Yeah, that hits close to home. So it's not just about Bitcoin going up in value, it's also about our traditional currencies losing purchasing power over time.
That's a key insight. And unlike those traditional bank accounts, which can be frozen or seized, Bitcoin is decentralized. So no single entity or government or institution controls it, which makes it resistant to censorship and manipulation.
This decentralization thing. It seems to be like a big deal for a lot of the Bitcoin enthusiasts, but doesn't that also make it harder to regulate and potentially riskier?
That's a valid concern. But you got to remember, risk and reward often go hand in hand. Decentralization is a double-edged sword. It empowers individuals, but also poses challenges for regulators.
I see. So how does this whole digital gold narrative play into Bitcoin's potential value? We've seen gold's price fluctuate over the years. Can we really expect Bitcoin to be any different?
Well, that's where things get interesting. One of your sources, from the analyst Plan B, introduces the stock-to-flow model, or S2F. It measures an asset's scarcity by comparing its existing supply to its annual production. The idea is the scarcer an asset, the higher its potential value.
Okay, so theoretically, as Bitcoin supply stays limited and demand increases, its price should go up. Right, but how reliable is this S2F model? Can we really use it to predict Bitcoin's future price?
Well, the S2F model has been remarkably accurate in predicting Bitcoin's price movements in the past. Plan B's projections suggest Bitcoin could hit $100,000 in 2021, $400,000 in 2024, and a staggering $3 million by 2028.
Whoa, those are some seriously bold predictions, but what are those predictions based on besides just scarcity? Where is all that value supposed to come from?
Just think about it. The global store of value market is massive. It's over $400 trillion, including everything from gold and real estate to stocks and bonds. As more and more people lose faith in traditional systems and look for alternative stores of value, Bitcoin, with its limited supply and decentralized nature, could capture a portion of that market.
Okay, I see what you mean, but let's be realistic. A lot of people still see Bitcoin as a risky investment, a bubble waiting to burst. How do you address those concerns?
Let's address the elephant in the room. The Bitcoin is just a bubble argument. Bitcoin has definitely seen its fair share of price swings. However, unlike traditional asset bubbles, it has consistently bounced back after every crash. Look at Amazon in its early days. It was ridiculed and dismissed. But those who held on saw massive returns. Bitcoin's resilience and growing adoption by major institutions like Wall Street and PayPal suggests it's more than just a passing fad.
So you're saying that this time it's different, that Bitcoin isn't just another tulip mania.
It's not about saying this time it's different. It's about looking at the underlying fundamentals and the growing evidence of Bitcoin's staying power.
Okay, fair enough. What about that whole thing that Bitcoin is mostly used for criminal activity? I see that argument all the time in the news.
Yeah, let's debunk that myth right now. The data shows that only a tiny fraction, about 1% of Bitcoin transactions are associated with illegal activities. That's way lower than the percentage of fiat currency used for illicit purposes. Cash is still king for criminals.
I haven't thought about it like that. And what about the environmental impact of all that Bitcoin mining? Isn't that a valid concern?
It's true that Bitcoin mining uses energy. But that whole narrative that it's an environmental disaster is often blown out of proportion. Many mining operations are powered by renewable or stranded energy sources that would otherwise go to waste. Plus, its energy consumption needs to be considered in the context of its value proposition. Think about the internet. With all its benefits, it consumes a ton of energy, yet we don't question its value.
So you're saying we should weigh Bitcoin's energy consumption against its potential benefits rather than just writing it off.
Exactly. And remember, technology is always improving. Bitcoin mining is becoming more and more energy efficient all the time.
All right, so we've addressed some of the criticisms and looked at the potential upside. Let's say I'm convinced and I want to buy some Bitcoin. How do I actually do that? And more importantly, how do I keep it safe from those hackers and scammers? We're talking about potentially life-changing sums here.
Right. Well, that's where one of the most fundamental principles of Bitcoin comes in. Not your keys, not your coins. To truly own your Bitcoin, you need to control your private keys. They're basically the digital passwords to your Bitcoin holdings. Exchanges like Coinbase are convenient for buying and selling Bitcoin, but they hold your private keys for you. This exposes you to risks like hacks and even the possibility of the exchange freezing your account.
So what's the alternative? Where should I store my Bitcoin if not on an exchange?
There are two main types of wallets: hot wallets and cold wallets. Hot wallets, like mobile apps or online wallets, are convenient for small everyday transactions. However, they're connected to the internet, which makes them more vulnerable to hacking. Cold wallets, on the other hand, store your Bitcoin offline, typically on a hardware device like a Trezor.
So it's kind of like choosing between a checking account and a safe deposit box, right? Hot wallets are for quick access. Cold wallets are for long-term storage and security.
That's a great analogy. Cold wallets like the Trezor offer the highest level of protection by generating and storing your private keys offline.
Okay, so let's say I've got my Trezor. How do I actually get my Bitcoin from an exchange like Coinbase onto it?
It's surprisingly straightforward. When you set up your Trezor, it creates a unique Bitcoin address. Think of it like your Bitcoin bank account number. Then you initiate a withdrawal from Coinbase, sending your Bitcoin to that specific Trezor address.
Got it. Sounds easy enough. But what about backing up my Bitcoin? What if I lose my Trezor, it breaks?
That's where the recovery seed comes in. When you set up your Trezor, it'll generate a recovery seed. Basically a series of 12 or 24 random words that represent your private keys.
Wait, so these words are like the master key to my Bitcoin fortune.
Exactly. Write them down carefully in order and store them in a safe, secure place offline. If you ever lose your Trezor, you can use these words to restore your Bitcoin wallet on a new device.
Got it. Treat those recovery words like they're the most valuable piece of information I possess. Okay, so I've got my Bitcoin stored securely. What are some other important things to think about as a new Bitcoin holder? I feel like we've just scratched the surface here.
You're right, there's a lot more to learn. One of your sources outlines something called the 10 Commandments of Bitcoin. They offer some good guidance for navigating this world.
10 Commandments. Sounds serious.
They are, in a sense. They emphasize principles like thinking in terms of Bitcoin, not dollars. Dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. And get this, never selling your Bitcoin.
Hold on, never selling. That seems extreme.
Remember the analogy we talked about earlier, Bitcoin as digital gold? If you truly believe in its long-term potential, selling would be like selling your gold bars just as the price is going through the roof. Of course, there might be exceptions for emergencies, but the general idea is to hold for the long term and avoid panic selling during those market dips.
Okay, I'm starting to get the Bitcoin mindset here. Long-term vision, resist the urge to panic sell, and trust in the technology. What else do these commandments cover?
Well, we'll dive deeper into those in the next part of our deep dive. But for now, we'll have to pause our expedition here. We've covered a lot of ground, and it's time for a mental pit stop.
This has definitely been an insightful first leg of our journey.
Yeah.
I'm already starting to see why people are so excited about this whole thing. I'm ready to delve deeper into this digital frontier. All right, we're back for part 2 of our Bitcoin deep dive. We left off talking about the 10 commandments of Bitcoin. I'm curious to unpack those and how they apply to someone like me who's just getting started with Bitcoin.
Yeah, these commandments, they offer a framework for navigating the Bitcoin world with a long-term perspective. They might sound a bit dogmatic, but they're based on a deep understanding of Bitcoin and its potential impact.
Okay, you've piqued my curiosity. Let's dive in. What's the first commandment?
The first one is value your wealth in Bitcoin. Now, I know this might sound a little radical, especially since we're still living in a world dominated by fiat currency.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. It's hard to imagine valuing everything in Bitcoin when I still got to pay my rent in dollars every month.
Right. It's not about completely ditching dollars.
Mhm.
It's more about shifting your perspective. Instead of always checking the Bitcoin price in dollars and stressing over every fluctuation, focus on accumulating as much Bitcoin as you can. Think of it like collecting rare stamps or vintage comic books. You don't check their dollar value every single day, do you? You value them for what they are and their potential to go up in value over time.
That's a good analogy. I guess it's about seeing Bitcoin as something valuable in itself, not just a way to make a quick buck.
Exactly. And that brings us to the second commandment, dollar cost average into Bitcoin.
Dollar cost averaging. That's something I've heard of from the stock market. So instead of trying to time the market and buy low, sell high, which is pretty much impossible, you invest a fixed amount in Bitcoin at regular intervals.
Exactly. That's it. This strategy helps smooth out the volatility of Bitcoin's price. You're averaging out your purchase price by consistently investing over time, which reduces the impact of those short-term price swings that can make you want to pull your hair out.
This sounds like a disciplined approach, especially for someone like me who tends to get caught up in the hype and make impulsive decisions.
Yeah, it's a time-tested strategy. It takes the emotion out of investing and helps you build a solid Bitcoin position over time.
All right, commandment number 3, never sell your Bitcoin. This is where I get a little hesitant. I mean, never. What if I need to access some of my funds for like an emergency or something?
Remember, these are guidelines, not strict rules. The idea behind never sell is to encourage a long-term perspective. It's about resisting the temptation to panic sell when the market dips or chase quick gains.
So it's more about a mindset of holding on to it rather than a strict rule against ever selling any Bitcoin.
Right. And this leads to the fourth commandment, never trade in and out of Bitcoin, which basically warns against trying to time the market.
I can see how that would be tempting, but also incredibly stressful and risky.
Trying to predict those short-term price movements, it's a recipe for disaster, even for seasoned traders. The best approach for long-term Bitcoin holders is buy and hold. Accumulate Bitcoin over time and let it appreciate.
Okay, commandment number 5, ignore the price of Bitcoin. Now that one sounds almost Zen-like. Is this about achieving some kind of Bitcoin enlightenment?
Uh-huh. Not quite. It's about maintaining a healthy distance from the price fluctuations. If you're constantly checking the price, you're more likely to make rash decisions based on fear or greed. Detaching yourself from those short-term swings helps you see the bigger picture.
So don't let the market mess with my emotions.
You got it. By ignoring those ups and downs, you can stay focused on Bitcoin's potential in the long run and avoid making decisions you might regret.
All right, next up, commandment number 6, not your keys, not your coins. We touched on this earlier, but it seems important enough for its own commandment.
Oh, absolutely.
Eh.
This is one of the most fundamental principles of Bitcoin. It stresses the importance of self-custody, meaning you hold your own private keys instead of relying on a third party like an exchange.
So even though exchanges are convenient for buying and selling Bitcoin, it's safer to store it in a cold wallet where I control my own private keys.
That's right. By holding your own keys, you eliminate the risks that come with exchanges, like hacks, security breaches, or even government intervention.
Okay, commandment number 7, never share your recovery seed. This one seems obvious, but I guess it's worth emphasizing.
You'd be surprised how many people underestimate this. Those 12 or 24 words represent your private keys and control access to your Bitcoin. Sharing them is like giving someone the keys to your vault.
Okay, so treat those words like they're more valuable than any password I have. Got it. What's next?
Commandment number 8 is all about discretion. Don't advertise your Bitcoin holdings. It's easy to get carried away when you're excited about something.
So no Bitcoin bumper stickers or bragging about my Bitcoin gains on social media.
Exactly. The less people know, the better.
Okay, makes sense. Don't want to make myself a target. I'll keep my Bitcoin stash under wraps.
Speaking of secrets, commandment number 9 might be the biggest one of all. Ignore all other cryptocurrencies.
Bitcoin is the next Bitcoin. I'm starting to get it. But why is it so important to just focus on Bitcoin? Aren't there other cryptocurrencies out there with interesting features?
Sure, there are thousands of other cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin stands out. It's the original and in many ways the most robust. It has the largest network, the strongest security, and the longest track record.
So stick with the OG, the one that's proven itself.
Right, Bitcoin is like the gold standard of crypto.
All right, I'm getting the message loud and clear. Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. What's the final commandment?
The 10th and final commandment is a call to action. You can never be too bullish on Bitcoin.
No, that's a statement I can get behind.
It's about embracing Bitcoin's potential to completely change the way we think about money and finance.
So have a positive outlook and believe in the power of this tech to change things for the better.
Exactly. Bitcoin is not just an investment. It's a movement, a whole new way of thinking about money and value.
Wow. These 10 commandments, they really are something. It's amazing how much wisdom and insight they contain. It's almost like a philosophical guide to Bitcoin.
Yeah, they offer a way to think about Bitcoin that's more than just making money. It's about understanding its deeper meaning and how it could change the world.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I'm starting to understand what it means to be a true Bitcoin believer. But before we get carried away, let's think about some of the potential risks and challenges that Bitcoin faces. I mean, no investment is perfect, right?
You're absolutely right.
Mm.
It's important to be realistic. And Bitcoin, despite all its potential, is not without its risks.
Okay, let's talk about those risks. What are some things that could potentially hold Bitcoin back? So we were just discussing some of those potential risks with Bitcoin. Like, what are some of the things that could hinder its progress?
Well, volatility is definitely one. Volatility is certainly a key factor. Bitcoin's price. It can swing dramatically in the short term, which can be unsettling for some investors.
Yeah, that's true. We talked about ignoring those short-term price swings, focusing on the long-term vision. But for someone new to Bitcoin, those price drops, they can be pretty scary.
Oh, absolutely. It's important to have a strong stomach and a long-term perspective when investing in Bitcoin. The classic saying, don't invest more than you can afford to lose, and be prepared for a wild ride.
Okay, good advice to remember. So what else should I be aware of?
Another challenge is regulatory uncertainty. Governments around the world are still trying to figure out how to regulate Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
So the rules of the game are still being written. That could make some investors hesitate, especially those big institutions. They're used to having clear regulations.
It's true. Regulatory uncertainty can create some roadblocks, but it's also a sign that Bitcoin is disrupting the way things are done. Governments are realizing they can't just ignore it. So we're seeing more of a shift towards regulation instead of outright bans.
That makes sense. As Bitcoin becomes more mainstream, I guess we'll see clearer guidelines from those regulators. So volatility and regulations, those are two big things to keep in mind. Are there any others?
Well, there's some debates going on within the Bitcoin community itself about scaling and development, like how to make transactions faster and cheaper without compromising security and decentralization. It's a complex issue.
So even though Bitcoin has been around for a while, it's still evolving.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin is constantly changing. That's one of the things that makes it so interesting. But it also means there will be bumps in the road and disagreements along the way.
It sounds like investing in Bitcoin, you need more than just a tolerance for those ups and downs. You also need to believe in its long-term potential and trust that the community can overcome these challenges.
That's a great way to sum it up.
Mm.
Bitcoin is not for everyone, but for those who see its potential, it can be an amazing journey.
Well, this deep dive has been eye-opening for sure. I feel like I've gone from knowing nothing about Bitcoin to actually understanding its history and its technology and how it could impact the world.
You've had some great questions. You're clearly curious to learn. It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you.
So before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners? Any final thoughts or advice?
Yeah, here's something to think about as you continue exploring Bitcoin. Imagine waking up in 10 years. Will you regret not taking a chance on Bitcoin today?
Whoa, that's a powerful question. It makes you realize that it's important to be open to new ideas and not let fear stop us from exploring opportunities that could change our lives.
Exactly. As you delve deeper into the world of Bitcoin, keep in mind what we talked about today. Understand the basics, prioritize security, think long-term, and never stop learning.
Well, this Bitcoin expedition has been quite a ride. We've explored the history of money, debunked some common myths, and learned about the ins and outs of Bitcoin investing.
Remember, the future of money is being written as we speak, and you have the chance to be a part of it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Bitcoin. It's been eye-opening, inspiring, and honestly, a little mind-blowing.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.